In a galaxy rife with powerful species vying for supremacy, humans were on the verge of defying all expectations. They were about to demonstrate that true strength wasn't about sheer size or brute force, but resilience honed on a perilous home world. Joe Maddox, a man who despised waste, especially of valuable metal, would often lecture anyone within earshot about the scarcity of resources. He'd explain his relentless scavenging in junkyards across various planets to anyone who'd inadvertently inquired or made the mistake of asking. His current objective was a sprawling, ancient scrapyard located in a remote, forgotten sector of the galaxy. The site was desolate, strewn with twisted metal and unrecognizable fragments. To most, it appeared as a worthless heap of refuse, but to Joe, it was a treasure trove. Joe was engrossed in dismantling a broken panel when he first noticed it, a massive machine, partially concealed beneath a mound of metallic debris and obscured by the shadow of a decaying crane. It was weathered and coated in layers of grime, yet it held a certain allure that captivated Joe's attention. Its form resembled a colossal mechanical sentinel, constructed with a level of artistry he hadn't encountered in a considerable time. "Who would abandon such a marvel here to rust?" he mumbled, incredulously shaking his head. Joe brushed some of the dust from the machine's exterior, uncovering a barely visible emblem on its chest plate. He struggled to decipher the symbols, but their deliberate placement suggested a deeper meaning. "What secrets are you hiding, big guy?" he murmured, squinting at the faded markings. As he circled the massive machine, a growing sense of significance settled upon him. The meticulous design, the thick armor plating, it was clearly more than just a piece of construction equipment. This machine was built for war, built to endure. Retrieving a wrench from his tool belt, Joe, with a few twists and grunts, managed to pry open a panel near the machine's base. "Let's see if there's any life left in you, buddy," he said, connecting a portable power source to the exposed wiring. He held his breath, the anticipation thick in the air. At first, only the hum of the power supply and the occasional spark broke the silence. Then, a low whir emanated from the machine, making Joe jump back, nearly tripping over his toolbox. "Well, I'll be," he exclaimed, as a faint glow appeared behind what seemed to be a thick, reinforced visor. Joe cautiously approached, hand instinctively resting on his tool belt, just in case this mechanical giant proved more lively than anticipated. A gruff, distorted voice crackled from the machine, halting and broken, like an ancient radio broadcast. "Systems, online." Joe blinked, half expecting the machine to simply power down again, but it remained steady. The deep, gravelly voice continued, "Mission, protect, protect." "Protect what, exactly?" Joe asked, more to himself than the machine. "Initiate, protection, protocol," came the reply. Joe scratched his head, examining the machine's towering frame. Real helpful. But protect what asterisk? The machine offered no further explanation, its visor flickering like an eye struggling to focus. Joe watched, captivated, a mixture of excitement and apprehension swirling within him. Machines like this didn't just appear in junkyards, abandoned and forgotten. This one had a story to tell. He noticed missing components, likely scavenged long ago, yet the intricate design still spoke of a powerful purpose. A low hum, almost a vibration, seemed to emanate from the machine, a constant, subtle reminder of its potential. Joe had a growing suspicion that he'd stumbled upon something far more significant than he'd initially imagined. He decided to call the machine Titan. The massive metal giant loomed before him, silent and imposing in the dim light of the scrapyard. Titan's occasional hums and clicks were almost like breaths, and every flicker of its visor sent a jolt of anticipation through Joe. He glanced around nervously, half expecting someone to appear and demand the machine back, but only silence and the faint rustle of wind through the metal scraps greeted him. Hesitantly, Joe retrieved his welding torch and some spare parts from his bag. He wasn't sure if he could restore Titan to full functionality, but a persistent inner voice urged him to try. Part of him wanted to walk away, leave the mystery unsolved, but he'd spent his life uncovering secrets hidden within metal, and this was the biggest enigma he'd ever encountered. Joe carefully examined Titan's outer shell. It was a complex blend of alien technology and outdated parts he barely recognized. His hands worked instinctively, replacing corroded circuits, realigning a damaged panel, and even rigging a temporary cooling system. Sweat beaded on his forehead, but he ignored it. Each piece he added seemed to revitalize Titan, the visor's glow intensifying with every repair. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he reconnected the main power core and flipped the switch. He held his breath, fingers clenched around his wrench, but nothing happened. Then, with a loud click, Titan's visor lit up, a steady, piercing glow. The machine stirred, metal groaning as if awakened from a long slumber. Its voice, clearer but still laced with static, demanded identity verification. Joe, caught off guard, stammered that he was just a mechanic. The machine insisted, identity required. Human presence detected. Human qualified. Joe frowned, confused. Qualified for what? Titan offered no explanation, instead muttering about alternate strategies, including self-destruct protocols for its archive. Joe's eyes widened. Self-destruct? The archive, Titan explained, contained the knowledge of an entire civilization, knowledge that had to be protected at all costs. Destruction was preferable to enemy access. Joe stared at Titan, the weight of those words sinking in. The Sora, it seemed, had entrusted their knowledge to humanity, but with a heavy price. He was the Guardian, and the decision was his. Before he could respond, a metallic clang echoed through the scrapyard, the unmistakable sound of approaching soldiers. They moved with silent precision, their shadows stretching across the walls. Joe tightened his grip on the compact weapon Titan had provided. Guardian, Titan's voice rumbled, I am prepared to defend the archives. Initiating full defense mode. Titan's armor shifted, panels sliding into place as it assumed a battle-ready stance. Energy surged around them, the visor's blue light intensifying, casting sharp shadows against the scrap. Joe nodded, a grim smile on his face. All right then. Let's give them a proper welcome. Joe meticulously studied Titan's outer shell, a perplexing mix of unfamiliar alien components and recognizable, yet obsolete, technology. His hands, guided by years of experience, instinctively began the intricate task of repair. He replaced corroded circuitry, carefully realigned a damaged access panel, and even managed to improvise a temporary cooling system using salvaged parts. Sweat beaded on his brow, a testament to his focused effort, but he barely noticed, his attention completely absorbed by the task at hand. Each restored component seemed to breathe a little more life back into the colossal machine. With every repair, the glow emanating from Titan's visor intensified. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of meticulous work, Joe reconnected the main power core and, with a deep breath, flipped the activation switch. Silence. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Joe's grip tightened around his trusty wrench, knuckles white with anticipation. Then, a resounding click echoed through the scrapyard as Titan's visor erupted in a steady, brilliant glow. The enormous machine stirred, its metallic limbs groaning in protest as if awakening from a centuries-long slumber. Its voice, clearer now but still tinged with static, demanded identity verification. Joe, startled by the sudden request, stammered a reply, explaining that he was simply a mechanic. The machine, unyielding, insisted, identity required. Human presence confirmed. Human, qualified. Joe furrowed his brow, bewildered. Qualified for what, exactly? Titan offered no further explanation, instead muttering about alternate strategies, including alarming self-destruct protocols for its internal archive. Joe's eyes widened at the mention of self-destruction. The archive, Titan explained, contained the accumulated knowledge of an entire civilization, a treasure trove of information that had to be protected at any cost. Self-destruction, it reasoned, was a preferable outcome to the archive falling into enemy hands. Joe stared up at Titan, the gravity of the situation pressing down on him. The Sora, it seemed, had entrusted their collective knowledge to humanity, but with a potentially catastrophic fail-safe. He was now the designated guardian, and the weight of that responsibility settled heavily upon his shoulders. The decision of what to do next was his and his alone. But before Joe could even formulate a response, the metallic clang of approaching boots echoed through the scrapyard, the unmistakable sound of incoming soldiers. They moved with chilling efficiency, their shadowy figures stretching across the walls, closing in. Joe instinctively tightened his grip on the compact weapon Titan had somehow provided, his heart pounding in his chest. "Guardian," Titan's voice rumbled, a low and resolute tone resonating through the air, "I am prepared to defend the archives." Initiating full defense mode. As if in response, Titan's armor plates shifted and slid into place, the machine seamlessly transforming into a battle-ready stance. A surge of energy crackled around them, the blue light emanating from its visor intensifying, casting long, sharp shadows across the scattered scrap metal. Joe nodded, a grim smile playing on his lips. "All right then," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins, "let's give them a proper welcome." Joe, still reeling from the near miss, watched in disbelief as the soldiers, momentarily stunned by Titan's unexpected defense, began to regroup. Their leader, a stern figure with a hardened expression, barked orders, directing his troops to focus their fire on the machine, convinced that sustained firepower would eventually overwhelm its defenses. Joe, however, had a growing confidence in Titan's resilience, muttering under his breath, "Good luck with that," as he pressed himself closer to the machine's side. Yet a nagging doubt lingered, he had no idea how much punishment Titan could absorb before its systems began to fail. "Titan," he called out, his voice laced with concern, "you got any more tricks up your sleeve?" Titan's visor pulsed, responding with a calm assessment, "Tactical engagement required. Protective field activated." With a series of metallic clicks and whirs, Titan's armor plates shifted, revealing a shield generator embedded within its torso. A shimmering blue energy field flickered to life, enveloping them in a protective barrier that deflected the incoming energy blasts with surprising ease. The soldiers' shots bounced harmlessly off the shield, their energy dissipating upon impact. Joe, momentarily relieved, let out a whistle of admiration. "Now that's what I'm talking about. Keep that up, big guy." But Titan's response was less than encouraging, field power limited. Duration approximately 60 seconds. Joe's stomach lurched. 60 seconds? He glanced back at the soldiers, who were already adapting their tactics, targeting weak points along the shield's perimeter. The pressure was mounting, the seconds ticking away like a death knell. "All right, think, Joe, think," he muttered, his mind racing. Titan was powerful, but these soldiers were clearly experienced in dealing with advanced technology. They were closing in, pushing the shield to its limit, and he was trapped with nowhere to run. Suddenly, an idea sparked in his mind. He slapped Titan's armor. "Hey, big guy, any chance you've got an escape route planned?" Titan's visor dimmed, as if processing the request. "Evasive maneuver possible. Probability of success 42%. 42%? Joe grinned, his heart pounding. "That's better than nothing. Do it." Titan hesitated for a moment, then rumbled a deep acknowledgement. With a sudden jolt, the machine bent its powerful legs and launched itself backward, the ground trembling beneath them as it shifted into a rapid retreat. Joe clung on for dear life, his hands gripping the machine's armor as they tore through the scrapyard, metal and debris scattering in their wake. The soldiers, disoriented by Titan's sudden and powerful defense, scrambled to regroup. Their commander, a hardened individual with a stern visage, barked orders, directing his troops to concentrate their fire on the machine, certain that sustained bombardment would ultimately breach its defenses. Joe, however, felt a surge of confidence in Titan's durability, muttering, "Yeah, right. Good luck with that," as he huddled closer to the machine's side. Despite his bravado, a persistent worry gnawed at him. He had no clue how much damage Titan could withstand before its systems gave out. "Titan," he yelled, his voice tight with apprehension, "anything else you can do?" Titan's visor pulsed, its response a calm analysis, tactical response necessary. Activating defensive shield. With a series of mechanical whirs and clicks, sections of Titan's armor plates realigned, exposing a shield generator nestled deep within its chassis. A shimmering, cerulean energy barrier sprang to life, encasing them in a protective cocoon that deflected the incoming energy blasts with remarkable efficiency. The soldiers' attacks rebounded harmlessly, their energy dissipating upon contact. Joe, momentarily relieved, let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Now you're talking." "Don't stop now, big fella," he exclaimed. But Titan's reply was less than reassuring, shield capacity finite. Estimated duration, 60 seconds. Joe's gut clenched. 60 seconds? He glanced nervously at the soldiers, who were already adjusting their strategy, targeting what appeared to be vulnerabilities along the shield's edge. The tension was palpable, each passing second echoing like a hammer blow. "Okay, think, Joe, think," he muttered, his mind racing. Titan was formidable, no doubt, but these soldiers were clearly veterans in the art of combating advanced technology. They were encroaching, pushing the shield to its breaking point, and he was trapped, with no apparent escape route. An idea suddenly struck him. He slapped Titan's metallic exterior. "Hey, big guy, any chance you've got an escape plan?" Titan's visor dimmed, seemingly processing the inquiry. "Evasive action feasible. Probability of success. 42%. 42%? Joe grinned, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "Better than zero. Let's do it." After a moment's hesitation, Titan responded with a low rumble of agreement. With a sudden, powerful thrust, the machine propelled itself backward, the ground shaking beneath them as it initiated a hasty retreat. Joe clung on desperately, his hands locked onto the machine's armor as they tore through the scrapyard, metal debris flying in every direction. The soldiers, momentarily caught off guard, quickly recovered and resumed their pursuit, firing relentlessly as they closed the gap. Joe could feel the shield weakening, the cerulean glow flickering like a dying ember. Time was running out. "Titan," Joe shouted over the din, "any chance you can, I don't know, lose these guys?" Titan's voice crackled through the chaos, a hint of unexpected resolve in its tone. "Analyzing scrapyard terrain. Searching for tactical advantage." Joe blinked, surprised. "You've got a map of this place?" "Negative. Constructing map from sensor data," Titan replied. Joe let out a low whistle. "Well, aren't you full of surprises?" he muttered. Titan abruptly changed direction, veering towards a narrow passage between two towering stacks of scrap metal. The soldiers, momentarily thrown off by the sudden maneuver, hesitated, giving Joe a precious few seconds to survey their surroundings. And that's when he saw it, a massive pile of rusted metal beams precariously balanced on a ledge overlooking the path. A mischievous grin spread across his face. He patted Titan's side. "Titan, I've got an idea." Titan's visor pulsed, as if expressing curiosity. "Elaborate." Joe scrambled to his feet, carefully balancing on the machine's shoulder, reached up, and grabbed a loose piece of scrap metal. With a quick flick of his wrist, he sent it hurtling towards the pile of beams, striking it precisely where he intended. The beams shuddered, teetered, then came crashing down in a deafening avalanche of metal. The soldiers yelled in alarm, scrambling to avoid the cascading debris, but it was too late. The path was blocked, forcing them to a grinding halt. Joe whooped in triumph, pumping his fist in the air. "How about that for quick thinking, eh?" But Titan, ever focused on its mission, didn't share his enthusiasm. Enemy units not fully neutralized. Primary objective, protect archives. Joe rolled his eyes good-naturedly. Yeah, I get it. Protect the archives, keep the secrets, all that jazz. But I think we bought ourselves a little breathing room, don't you?" Titan's visor dimmed slightly, as if acknowledging the point. Temporary distraction effective. Reassessing tactical plan. Joe, still catching his breath, looked at the mess they'd made. The soldiers were gone, their weapons discarded among the debris, and the tunnel was eerily quiet, except for the soft hum of Titan powering down, its visor fading to a dim blue. "You did it," Joe murmured, a wave of gratitude washing over him. Titan's voice was weak, almost a whisper. "Mission complete. Guardianship transferred." A pang of sadness hit Joe. Titan was shutting down, its purpose fulfilled after centuries of waiting. No, Joe said firmly, placing a hand on the machine's warm metal. You're more than a relic, Titan. You're part of this. If I'm the Guardian, you're coming with me. Titan's visor flickered, a faint pulse of hope in the dim light. Guardianship accepted. A smile touched Joe's lips. He felt the weight of responsibility, but he was ready. The Soarer had seen something in humanity, and he wouldn't let them down. Together, they walked out of the tunnel into the warm glow of the rising sun. The Soarer's knowledge was safe, entrusted to him, a mechanic who now carried the torch of an ancient legacy. As they left the scrapyard, Joe couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger adventure.